I don't think there's any doubt that given the way that the threats that Trump has made towards the future of NATO, his warnings about sort of ending the war in Ukraine in a day, were he to take back the White House, essentially forcing Kyiv to concede the territory that Russia has gained in the last 2 years, I don't think there's any doubt that the Kremlin would prefer to see Trump back in the White House.
Okay, Hugh. Well, first of all, to what extent do you believe Russia is actually influencing American voters?
Well, on the evidence of this indictment, Russia has been trying to influence American voters for several years. Of course, this goes right back to the 2016 election, when U.S. intelligence agencies believed that Moscow intervened to help Donald Trump. We believe that they tried again in 2020 when he was defeated by Joe Biden, and all the indications are that there is a concerted operation from the Kremlin to influence voters ahead of the 2024 election, and not just in heading into the election, of course, but also to drive down. This is critical in the indictment: drive down American public support for the war in Ukraine, which it appears they have been successful in doing.
We'll come to that in a moment, but are there people truly who might have been inclined to vote for Kamala Harris who will then see some sort of propaganda, written by a Russian somewhere that's got a link to the Kremlin, who then will both believe it and actually change their vote? Does that truly happen?
Well, I don't know about sort of Harris converts, let's say, but the point of this indictment is that you wouldn't realise that you were being spoon-fed Russian propaganda. The indictment makes clear that Russian agencies have been building mock websites to impersonate legitimate US news sites, including the Washington Post and Fox News, I believe, and then posting fake articles on there and fake headlines, and also sort of online influencers have been recruited unwittingly to spread pro-Russian propaganda.
I would imagine that this is almost impossible to stop completely in this sort of era of social media and international money markets and, war, as we're seeing, each with their own sort of spin machines, I guess. So if it's impossible to stop, how far can the US go in actually reducing the damage that's being caused?
It's a good question. It's very difficult because, as you say, when sort of you stamp out a fake website in one place, another will pop up immediately. This is, you would imagine the tip of the iceberg, and this there's no suggestion that this operation this operation by Moscow is going to fall just because of these indictments. Of course, the figures at RT, the Russian broadcaster, state-owned broadcaster, who were sanctioned in this, are on TV, are on Russian television every night, campaigning against the war in Ukraine and against the US. Nothing essentially changes.
And you mentioned about how it's not just necessarily the US election that's being influenced here. It might be sort of popular opinion around Russia's war in Ukraine. Do we have any sort of understanding as to how much they're working on each, as it were? What proportion might be for with regards to one, and what proportion might be with regards to the election?
Well, I think the two go hand in hand. I think that was the point. Sort of driving down support for Ukraine tallies of goes alongside with driving down popular support for Joe Biden, who of course was the Democratic nominee when this operation was underway. There was a sort of in the indictment, it spells out a plan to drive Biden's already low approval rating below 30%, which would have made him completely unelectable. And there's no doubt that it is, the war in Ukraine has become a burden for Biden. Getting the last round of funding through Congress was extremely difficult, took several months. And part of the reason for that was the decline in popular opinion in sort of broadly among Republican-held constituencies. So, as I said, the two go hand in hand.
Now, your piece on this sort of says, that American authorities all believe that President Putin would far prefer President Trump rather than President Harris come the outcome of this upcoming election. And yet, in the last 24 hours, we've heard President Putin suggest otherwise. Do you believe him, or was that all very tongue-in-cheek about her smile?
Well, given the smirk on Putin's face when he said this, yes, exactly. You're referring to the comments he made overnight about Harris's infectious laugh, and maybe he'd go easier. She would go easier on Moscow if she were president than Trump has done. Trump, by the way, was on Fox News last night doing a town hall in the swing state of Pennsylvania, and again touting his relationship with Putin and how tough he'd been on Putin and how Putin had told him, "Well, if this is you being nice to me, then I'd hate to see when you were being really tough." I don't think there's any doubt that given the way that the threats that Trump has made towards the future of NATO, his warnings about sort of ending the war in Ukraine in a day, were he to take back the White House, essentially forcing Kyiv to concede the territory that Russia has gained in the last 2 years, I don't think there's any doubt that the Kremlin would prefer to see Trump back in the White House.
Well, these comments, as clear as you say, as tongue-in-cheek they were, do you think that they were almost part of this propaganda machine in a way from Putin?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, just keep us talking about it. Just keep everybody slightly slightly wrong-footed. And yeah, I mean, quite openly, sort of meddling in the American political process.
Тимур, все нормально, приказ идет. Хорошо. Я вас поняла. С этими ящиками что делать? Тут же найдутся сразу, все повытаскивают. Ну, повернулась задом вот так, и рама полетела, и все, я упала.
Эту хуйню замутить, блядь. Джонсон этот ебучий, блядь, американский.
Материал, Виктор.